I am now pleased to invite to the stage Dr. Abdulla Al-Khalifa, who is the chairman of the Bahrain Center for Strategic, International, and Energy Studies, also known as Darasat. Please.
Your Excellency, Dr. Abdulatif Al-Zayani, Dr. Abdulaziz Sagar, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, very good afternoon. I spoke at this podium 6 years ago, and it's good to be back. I congratulate the GRC for the 10th anniversary of the GRM, and I thank Dr. Abdulaziz for this invitation. I believe we all share the deep appreciation for the indispensable role of the Gulf Research Center and its leadership in producing high-quality research that furthers our strategic understanding of the developments of the Arab and Gulf region. Here today, whilst we may represent many cultures, it is very important that we always remember that we are part of a one global society with the same human aspirations, with the same goals, the goals of furthering the well-being of our peoples, the goals of protecting our valued human principles. We come together to defend our one shared society from the scourge of extremism, terrorism, racism, and hate. Following in this steed, I believe the title, Investing in Knowledge and Thought, effectively contributes towards achieving the positive change we all desire. It has the power to project inspirational visions and new dynamic that supports peace, freedom, and development, whilst simultaneously fighting extremism and terrorism in all of its forms. Of the world's regions, it is of little doubt that the Middle East is in great need of investment in knowledge and thought. We must isolate, contain, and deter theocratic ideologies with a war of education and knowledge, with inspirational thoughts that serves the greater good and the development of our people. For the past few years, the Middle East has been known as the land of crises. This is due to an imbalance in the regional system after differences won over coexistence. Chaos triumphed over stability, coupled with a stark increase in failed states and those on the verge of collapse. Many theories have been put forward to explain and tackle the situation that have permeated the region, such as filling the vacuum or creative extremism. But the fingerprints of one particular theory can be seen throughout, namely that of power politics. This phenomenon is danger to the extreme, for this power is often fueled by sectarian strife, by extremist ideology, and the hatred of the other. In this vein, Iran is a prime example. Gentlemen, if you don't mind. following the passage of 4 decades since the revolution, the following can be said with conviction. Iran is not a normal state, and its sectarian agenda is based on expanding their own control over the countries of the region. The Iranian sectarian project is incendiary in nature and is aimed at provoking crisis, as well as sponsoring and financing terrorist militias. Iran's interferences in the affairs of regional countries is very widely known. In my own nation of Bahrain, many terrorist cells have been dismantled. Cells that have received foreign training and funding, as well as assistance in smuggling and using explosives. Exhaustive investigations and all of the evidence revealed their loyalty to the Islamic Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, or one of their manifestations in neighboring countries. Interestingly, theocratic regimes and Takfiri terrorism go hand in hand, despite the different names. Their doctrine and their purpose is one: the responsibility to change the world with divine orders. Hence, from their point of view, any act of terrorism committed in this vein is seen as legitimate and justified. The Middle East is currently experiencing a new crisis. The latest escalation in the Arabian Gulf has seen terrorist attacks on civilian oil tankers. The evidence presented clearly shows that Iran is responsible for these attacks. The attacks on oil tankers hark back to the tanker war phase of the Iran-Iraq war in the 1980s, and Iran's targeting of oil tankers then. The crisis between Washington and Tehran carries several scenarios, pendulating between military escalation and a call to the negotiating table. But in my estimation, the sheer cost of war to both sides make the military option extremely unviable. Simultaneously, the Israeli-Palestinian conflict remains a constant source of tension, and due to our wish in Bahrain to be an effective part of the solution, Bahrain hosted recently the Prosperity for Peace workshop in Manama. This was an initiative towards further development, better education, and ultimately a better quality of life for the peoples of the region, and particularly the Palestinians. More so, it has aimed to establish an environment conducive to peace. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, over the past decade, our region has borne witness to violent changes which have only resulted in the collapse of national institutions and the rise of sectarian and ethnic conflicts with a level of savagery hitherto unseen. They have obstructed the ways to development and made the path towards reform far more difficult. And an unfortunate reality is that there is a new generation and in numerous Middle Eastern countries who know only the language of violence or the path to revenge. The beneficiaries of the tragic situation is Iran and leaders of extremism. It can be said with certainty that European countries have not been far removed from the consequences of these results and events. Indeed, This is notably true in relation to the influx of migrants and acts of terrorism committed on European soil. The experiences of the past few years have no doubt been hard and testing. Perhaps this has led most of us realizing that stability, gradual reform, education, and sustainable development are the ways forward. This, coupled with spreading moderate thought, rhetoric, are all essential pillars for democratic development. And the time has come to send a firm, collective message to Iran. Enough interference, enough terrorism, enough nefarious interventions in the affairs of others, and enough threat to international peace and security. The moderate Arab states, at the forefront of which lies the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, Egypt, the United Arab Emirates, and Bahrain, have acted to prevent the spread of conflict and terrorism to new areas. The Islamic Military Counter-Terrorism Coalition and the Arab Coalition to Support Legitimacy in Yemen have been established to combat Iran's incendiary stoking conflict. We also have and seek to ensure that the Houthi militias do not control Bab el-Mandeb or threaten international navigation and the freedom of the seas. Simultaneously, we seek to render assistance to countries affected negatively by Iran's actions. The aforementioned Arab countries have a successful counterterrorism architecture, one that integrates security with economic growth, human development, and religious moderation. The Kingdom of Bahrain, under the leadership of His Majesty King Ahmed bin Isa Al Khalifa, presents a model of self-determination that champions unity over diversity. In order to build the foundation of democratic practice and activate public participation. All the whilst, Bahrain maintains the separation of powers in line with the principles of justice, sustainability, and competitiveness that make up the pillars of Bahrain's Economic Vision 2030 that was launched 11 years ago. This is done with the participation of groups from all walks of life, including the youth and women, all the while furthering the principles of tolerance and citizenship. Dear friends, our collective efforts are the only way forward. Only through this can we address the challenges that we face. Only through this can we ensure that every last one of us, especially our youth, have hope and access to ample opportunities. We must also better manage our differences through dialogue, focusing on human beings, for human beings are any nation's true wealth. We must protect our people's right to live in a secure and a prosperous environment with a high quality of life and advanced government services. Our battles are part of a much wider, comprehensive war against extremism. To win it, we must create environments that are conducive to successful reform and sustainable development. From this podium, I invite you all to invest in this international forum as a focal point to widen and deepen human partnerships. I thank you for your attention.